morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. So be sure to go check them out and get addicted, like some of our contributors apparently have been, now that I'm finding out. But it is Monday. Grumpy is here in all his glory. And speaking of glory, the prince is in the house. What's happening?
Not much. Celebrating exactly 1 year today, our wedding anniversary.
So happy anniversary!
Thank you. Yeah, so it is a good day. It's a beautiful, bright day to start, which is really nice. We had some really funky weather last couple of days. That I know we're a couple hours away from each other, but
yeah, I don't know how it was over there. Yeah,
Saturday night that was a wild time. We were trying to drive home through that crazy, whatever you want to call it, storm. It felt like a mix of three different storms altogether. It was incredible. But we're here, and I'm here to tell the story. Or I'm here to... You don't want to hear the story. I already said the story. I'm just here. Hi.
That would be an interesting story. Because I know Stitch, especially, was not too thrilled with that. And then he jumped on me, like, right in the middle of a freaking Call of Duty session while we were fighting another team. I was like, not now. What the hell is going on? But I didn't realize it was freaking obnoxious outside. But yeah, summer rains and storms, even though we're a couple of hours away. 108. You know what it was last week? One of those days over here was ridiculous as well. It has been hot as hell. To celebrate your wedding, try to seduce my wife with my charismatic signals. What are those charismatic signals, one wonders, right? And I don't know what your wife is going to think about you celebrating another person's wedding. Speaking of, how were you guys celebrating the wedding? The surprise.
Yes, so we had a nice dinner yesterday with the in-laws because they have the same exact wedding anniversary.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's really odd.
So we went out for dinner and with her brother as well. And we hung out, and then so today we're gonna go get some brunch. We're gonna go to the Botanic Gardens, and just
very royalty like.
Nice,
we're gonna get brunch.
We've already got the maids ready with the umbrellas that are holding over our heads as we walk around, so we don't get hit by the sun too much. Don't worry, it's all in focus. Our carriage is waiting. You know.
Oh God. Okay, that's good stuff right there. Well, yeah, 1 year you're just a rookie, but yes, congratulations.
I'm still on the bench. I haven't even put in the starting lineup yet.
Okay, a couple of things to get to. I don't know what to start with. There's like a lot of like interesting things actually. None of them are Liverpool related, unfortunately.
Tis the summer.
Okay, you know what? This is as close as we can get to being Liverpool related, right? So Birmingham. Well, I'll let you tell the story because you just told me the story. I had not heard about this until you told me.
Yeah, because I just came across it this morning as well, and I saw that Birmingham City's owners had requested that they play Wrexham in the USA next year, and the EFL went and said, "Nope. Not going to do that. Sorry." So yeah, I mean, I didn't say much more than what the title just said there. But yeah, no, it's really funny. I hope, because obviously Birmingham City's owners are American. Wrexham owners are American as well. So, they're trying to do what they can to bring the sport and their teams to the US, but to have it for a league fixture. And I can only imagine, I don't know if Wrexham had any part in it. I don't know if Rob or Ryan had any part in it. But I can just imagine the documentary, the episode against Birmingham City. You just says, it's not about building a football club, but it's about building a community. And that's why we're going to be playing in Vegas. And it's just like, okay, that's weird.
And I think that's why, I think that answers Ryan's question there. I think that's why it's an issue. And I think, we just went through a similar episode. I think it was a bit more to it when, like Turkey tried to take the, what is that called now? President's Cup, or basically like their version of like Charity Shield or whatever, like Cup winner of the year before versus the league winner of the year before, and they tried to take it to Saudi Arabia, which was another fiasco by itself. But I think there were multiple reasons for that as well, because the trophy is named It was the 100th anniversary of the Republic, and going to Saudi Arabia is very contradicting to that, because the whole point of Ataturk and the Republic is Turkey being a Muslim country that's not, more like modern and stuff like that, like Ataturk principle. So it was almost like a slap in the face. So there was like a political thing to it too. But a lot of people were offended, saying, "Why the hell are we going over there to play the game? These are our teams." So I can understand stuff being more of like, this is our club. Where are you taking our club, kind of a thing.
Right.
But I don't think this is for off season.
No, this was for a
They
league.
were
Sorry, yeah,
asking for
Ryan.
league
This was for a league game. They wanted the league fixture, not an off. I don't care about off season. If they
Yeah,
want to
they
come
can do
here
it all they want.
in June, July, August, and they want to tour every single state, I don't give a fuck. But they wanted this to be a league game. It's just, that's why it was so ridiculous. I'm sorry if that wasn't. I don't know if it was in the headline, and I didn't.
No, it
maybe
is not.
I didn't mention it. So yeah, that's my fault. That's why it's an issue. Because yeah, that's not cool.
Okay, well, so let's stick with the theme of Americans working on destroying the game over here.
This is what people think we all sound like.
And that's the prop. Yes, this is where I want to get to. But okay, let's talk about this.
There's nobody like Messi, and I don't think that there ever will be somebody like Messi. It's a generational talent. It's like Maradona, and then Messi has just had that crown. But there's other players, Jude Bellingham, Pulisic's coming up. There's no.
He's coming up, and he's going right back down again. I don't know.
Oh wait, he's injured. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? Because Anand mentioned this on Friday. I think it was towards the end of the show, and I didn't know the context of it. I thought it was just, it was. I didn't realize the names were that close in a sentence. I thought it was more like in a paragraph, but no, like it was dangerously close. There was only like 4 or 5 words separating Maradona from Pulisic. And I think this is why this pisses me off, man. I'm telling you, this freaking pisses me off, because then this is why then people come into our comments on YouTube and stuff, which if you haven't subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Make sure you guys go and subscribe. But that's why people go into those and say like, oh, Yank's talking about soccer and stuff like that, because of like stupidity. These are people on TV that should be talking some sense, and that should be like kind of like promoting the sport. I mean, is that promoting the sport, kind of like making this like Captain America fictitious character that's, like does the average American think he is the next Messi, Maradona over there in Europe, kind of thing, because they don't know about the game? It would be like me asking me like a young up and coming baseball pitcher or something like that, and I'd be like, oh, he's that good, huh? Like I wouldn't like freaking know. He's the next Roger Clemens or something. I don't know. Like, and I'd be like, oh, really? He's that good? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, part of it just goes to a false sense of understanding of the sport and how much there is to the sport around the world, and the amount of players that encompass the entire sport. I think the big thing I always go back to is Freddie Adu. There was this massive, and I was pretty young at that time. I think I was middle school, high school.
What is this, like the 80s?
No, I mean, but it was like late 2000s, right? And so they have this 13, 14-year-old kid coming over, and these Americans think that he's going to be the next amazing thing. But over in Europe, you've got 7, 8, 9-year-olds going to academies all the time, right? So it's nothing to over there. So they're just, I feel like there's always just trying to find that for better or for worse, finding that the next face of the sport. And don't get me wrong, if it works, it works. I'm not going to be upset if more people get into it because they start thinking that Christian Pulisic could be the next Maradona, because maybe that allows more people here to watch the sport and and give it some more of a chance.
So this says Dempsey seems he's the only American pundit that doesn't embarrass himself. Probably because he has embarrassed himself overall. I can't stand Dempsey. I'm sorry. He's probably like in the top 10 list. Nowhere close to Neymar or anything, but he was in my top 10 list of annoying players. So do you think that this whole Pulisic thing is being pushed? I'm assuming they obviously have to push it. It's Fox, right? They're like, oh, watch Pulisic take on Messi. I'm assuming is what we're trying to push over here. But is that like, are Americans going to get more interested in the sport because they have a horse in the race? Is that what you're saying? Like if they didn't have a horse in the race of one of the best players or whatever, but it's like more about liking the sport, isn't it? I mean, I guess whatever gets you there. I know what you're saying, but then when you're spewing out shit like this, people like us who know the sport, I mean, we're still going to follow the sport. It's not like we're going to leave the sport but it just looks really, really pathetic to us because, well, we know better.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how, there isn't much more to say on that really than what we've already covered. To be honest, I don't know. It's tough. And right now I sound like a complete idiot. So, you can't give me any credit really, because I'm not saying much else myself.
I mean, yeah, that's, I guess. And then there was this. I think this was right after the England game over here, where it just shows like Sturridge should not be in a studio, by the way, because he just, I know it's Alexander sitting next to you, but you got to be able to try to keep your composure at least, and not just like. And this is another thing, honestly, and this is the other part of the American media, where actually what Lalas is saying, if you just take the facts or what he's talking about, he's probably right. But just the way he's saying it in the most American media, ESPN way possible, makes it, you don't even listen to what he's saying. You're like more listening to how he's saying it, and like the impact, like how controversial he's trying to make it and stuff like that, which is sadly the other part of the shitty American media.
Sure. Yeah, that's what it's about, entertainment. The sports have always been part of drama that you want to give to the audience. You want them to have some sort of story to go off of. You don't want them to just go there for the sport alone. It's not about the spectacle. It's about everything else that goes around it. And that's why you just don't have the same sort of support at professional games that you see overseas, as far as what the atmosphere is like, what the crowd's like, and the fact that it's just so incredibly expensive to go to some of these games. You don't really get the diehard fans that would be there for the sport. You just get the people who have the money, who can show their face, especially Laker games. And that's one thing where it's really just about, hey, I'm here. This is really it. The Lakers, fine. It's basketball, but I can afford this and I'm here.
If having American owners like FSG Volley owning two of the biggest lesson when players like Messi and Suarez doesn't make footy popular in America, then forget anything else, says Cersei. I think, Messi is probably a big step. I don't know. I don't know if Americans get much out of Suarez coming over here. It's almost like, Messi is bringing his whole gang back, is I think the closest like the regular American fan probably looks at. But I guess here's my thing. If I'm not into the sports, and I know it's different, especially for the youth, I'm an old fart. But I'm trying to think of a sport that I despise or I don't like. I don't know, like golf. Like if I wasn't, I'm sure it's growing in Turkey now. I know there's a lot more golf courses and crap. But like if I'm not into golf, just because McIlroy came to Turkey to play golf or something like that, I'm not going to be suddenly into it. Or a baseball player coming to Turkey to play baseball is not going to get me into the sport. But like you say, is it more about just like give something for media to talk about, and because people are watching, then they're lured into the game? So it's like in a roundabout way, we're getting you into the sport.
Yeah. It's just the difficult thing, I think, sometimes is that next leap from these tournaments to the next part of the sport, because we've seen in major tournaments, like every time the World Cup comes around, there's a pretty big focus in the US regarding the World Cup, and you see a lot of people who typically don't turn the TV on for it end up turning it on or going out to a bar to watch it or whatever the case might be. But right as soon as that tournament ends, like the sport doesn't exist anymore. And I think part of that, if you're really going to try and bring people into the sport and having these pundits here do this, you have to have another way to continue that post tournament, just because there's going to be nothing else to go off of. You know, you're always going to get the same people every 2 years, every 4 years, whatever the case might be. Just click on for 2 minutes and then click off. And sometimes it's difficult for some people to understand that there isn't just one giant league. Like when you talk to someone here and you talk about baseball, you talk about basketball, you talk about football, they think NBA, MLB, NFL. There's one league that you can think of. You have teams in those leagues from Canada. You have teams in those leagues from the U.S., but it's just one big league.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really difficult for them to understand that overseas there is one league per country, and each one of those leagues has its own right as being a very good league. And then you have another competition that brings in all of the leagues from Europe. And then that's when you start to lose more people because like they don't understand why there's this and then that, and why can't just be one giant league. So I think part of it, I feel like there has to be more educational things throughout these sections, these moments, rather than just the sound bites. Like put in certain things that help people understand what the leagues are or where Pulisic even plays and what does that mean. Like, what does it mean that he plays in Serie A rather than, you know, he's pretty much like Maradona. Maradona once played in Italy. Kind of like that just doesn't have the same effect.
That's a good point, though, actually. Like, Americans don't realize you have to beat somebody else in a different country to be able to be world champs. You can't just have your own league and come out as world champs out of every league somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, that does make sense, I think. The problem is, I think to get the regular fan is not probably interested in that. That's why one thing that I liked about that whole Wrexham concept was the fact that, you know, it was kind of explaining things, trying to dumb things down along the way. Because I think when Americans, especially Americans who are sick of, you know, teams like tanking the season, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, when they hear, like anybody I've explained to the relegation promotion system would love to have it here. Sadly, it's not feasible in any of these sports, but they love that concept. But it's like such a foreign concept. It's kind of like difficult to expand. I guess I understand and you know, mind you, this is just in general, I think, like US media and TV versus like, I don't want to say European, definitely British though, TV. Like, I was literally, this is funny because last night I was watching, I was in a YouTube hole and I don't know if you've ever seen like Shark Tank over here. So there's a version, like a British version of Shark Tank in England. It's called like something Lion's Den or like, I can't remember what the hell it is, but I don't know if you've ever seen it, but first of all, I don't know how old that show is. I didn't get a chance to look. It literally just showed up on my feed because I watched Shark Tank stuff. It showed up on my feed and I was like, what is this? It looks like it was made in the 40s, first of all. Like literally a studio, like he's coming up these stairs like he's in a dungeon or something. And Dragon's Den, that's what it is. And it looks like they shot it in like this like old abandoned warehouse. Like nobody even knows they're there. But just like the overall pacing, conversation and stuff like that is very different between the two cultures. It did come out before. I mean, yeah, it must have, because like I said, it looks like it's from the 40s. Like just quality of the video and the recording, camera work, everything like that. But I think that's like one of the biggest differences. It's more about like entertainment, like you're saying. So it almost has to be above and beyond everything else. Everything has to be taken to the next level. Just being able to sit down and watch the game or talk about the game is not enough. You have to make like and honestly, they do this like with NFL and stuff too. Whenever I hate pregame shows because it's always like 10 like weird storylines. They try like it's not a game if there is not a bunch of storylines to go with it. It feels like over here.
Yeah, well, because sometimes you need those storylines because some of the games don't matter. You know, like if there is no punishment for losing necessarily, besides maybe, you know, losing a little bit of money because a fan or two won't come next week or in 2 weeks, then there really is no punishment, because the worse you get, the better you're off. The better you're off by then getting a better draft pick. So there really is nothing that allows us. So by making these storylines and allowing the fans to feed off of something, it kind of creates that, again, more of that entertainment instead of the appreciation for what the sport really is. And I mean, if you do go on YouTube and you watch content creators react to understanding football or understanding soccer, like what it is, and learning these things, you'll find every single person, when it comes to relegation, their mouth just drops. They're like, they have no idea this sort of thing could even exist, let alone actually happen. And it's just really ironic that, you know, just like the huge capitalistic side of things, where it is like the leagues in Europe, is flipped to the sort of the socialist side of things in the leagues like the US, where, you know, everything is shared a bit. The worse you are, you get benefits, this and that. It's not so cutthroat. So it's kind of ironic that in that world that's flipped as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is like totally different. And I think maybe those storylines they're trying to get more of the neutrals in there. So you're watching the storyline, even if it's not your team, or like you're saying, it might not have a meaning at all. Our beloved White Sox will be playing
as they should.
I'm assuming they're not doing so hot. See, when I commuted, I used to listen to sports media, like sports radio. I would switch back and forth. It's like an hour commute. You're gonna mix it up. And I used to know a lot about what's going on in baseball, even though I despised it. Now I have no idea. So just as it's supposed to be a dungeon, well, then they should be doing it at a dungeon. They shouldn't be in a warehouse. Looks like in the meeting room upstairs, because it was pretty brutal. European soccer has socialist ideals as well with sharing money. I mean, that's their way. I think in terms of like they don't have the draft picks or whatever. This is, I think, their way of trying to keep the balance. I think, especially as the sport gets bigger, everybody's in a lot of it, like it's all about making money and everything. But I think to keep the competitiveness overall and not make it so lopsided, it is a bit more, has like some socialist aspects to it, of supporting the little guy, because you can't give them a draft pick or anything like you do over here.
Yeah, because if you didn't have those parachute payments, some of those clubs would cease to exist. So it's something that's necessary, but it's not like it's necessarily helped a ton. I know I've been on here for the past couple of years talking about how, you know, we want to talk about this incredible league that we have, that we watch, the Premier League, every year, week in, week out, but every team that comes up can't compete with any of the teams in this league. The last time there was Sheffield United, maybe 4 years ago, that finished 8th, I think, when they were
they had a good run.
And then the next year they just got completely decimated and they were dropped. If you can't have, I understand being sustainable to an extent, but if you also have a system where you have teams come up into a league, if those teams that come up into a league cannot compete with all the other teams that are already in that league, then what is the point? Like, what do we do to make that work more? Because we're just moving closer and closer to just having the top 6 teams only being the same top 6 teams. And they have been relatively for a while, right? I'm not saying that it hasn't been like this, but now with money specifically, it wasn't like this in the late 90s. I mean, Man United had all the money, but everyone else was similar to each other. Now it's just like, whoever has the most money for the most part, and do whatever you want, and that's it.
My solution to that, before they came up with this new scheme now, but before I was like, there should be a number, like a cap of how many players you can have under contract. So these big clubs can't go around and get everybody that's 17, 18 who's good, and then loan them out, have these guys help bring those teams up, and then be like, yeah, we're taking him back now because he became good. Thanks for developing him, by the way. And then the teams that come up who rely on all these loaned players from the Premier League, now they don't have these players. So they go spend money, and we know it just doesn't happen like that. So they just end up going down. Because they have money, they're like, well, let's see if we can fill the void. But then you're pretty much replacing half your team. You're getting new guys. They're not as good as the other guys anyway. But now they kind of came up with this other scheme of owning different clubs. So that has gone down the drain, I think. But I thought that was one of the things that really bugged me is there's kind of like a monopoly of just snatching all these young guys and then suddenly, like moving it, taking him back and loaning him out, taking him back, like basically like trading like young players. But I think this whole second club, third club crap is going to go down the drain. The clubs on the end are doing business with each other and selling fringe players to each other with overinflated prices, and that's what's gonna like now happen. I mean, I'll be honest. Like for example, I just find it really weird. The Hull City owner, I talked about this before, is a board member at Fenerbahce. I mean, that alone, he doesn't even own both of them, mind you. But it's a conflict of interest because we have sold some guys to Hull City at prices that we're like, really? Like, okay, that's good. Not too obnoxious. Like we didn't sell them for like 80 million, probably because Hull City can't afford it either. But yeah, not too obvious. It was done really well, but still, it's there's going to be a lot of shady dealings, and I think it's going to be very, very impossible to prove that fringe. Like, who's going to decide what that fringe player's work? Are they going to go by the transfer markets ratings for him? Like, how are they going to prove that you're paying way too much for this guy? He's not worth 10. You can get him probably for 5. You can't do that.
Yeah, because evaluation is a very personal thing from one, and that goes beyond just the value of players. That goes into trading cards, that goes into collectibles, into cars, whatever you may have. It's really as cliche as value is in the eye of the beholder, right? If I try and sell you this plastic bag for $3 and you're like, that's a waste of money. Okay. Or you see the value in it, then you'll give me $3. But I can go up to the next person and ask for $3 and they're like, I would never ever spend more than 50 cents on a bag. That's ridiculous. It's hard to, unless you come up with a brand new committee, and this committee, their only job is to put fair market value on players, and then each club gets a rating of what that transfer is like and if it should go through or not. Now, it would become a headache. So yeah, it's difficult to prove that.
Yeah, I think those are the things they're running into. But I guess if there's a way to somehow, I think that's a bit easier though, right? Like advertising revenue and stuff like that, because then you can look and say, I don't know, like United gets this much for this, Liverpool gets this much for this, so it's doesn't make any sense for City to get 4 times that. So I can see how they would kind of try to gauge that. But with a player, it does become the eye of the beholder thing, like you're saying. It's not as like financial numbers and stuff like that. You might be saying, I'm paying for the potential and stuff like that. And that's another thing. Who's going to be in this committee, and how many envelopes? Do they have enough envelopes for everybody in the committee at UFA? Those are going to be like the issues over there. But yeah, I don't know. The money thing we talked about in the past is definitely not going the way that most fans would want to. But I think it's unfortunately inevitable, which makes international soccer a little bit more different and appealing. I know it's going to be a sore subject to bring up with you. Let's do it freaking anyway. Mind you, Turkey lost to Portugal. In the end, that didn't matter. I wish they just lost like 1-0 and just walked away. But so Turkey is still in it in some ways. This actually scoreline from yesterday helps. So Group 1 is done, and most likely, unless, like I say, Turkey gets demolished or something like that by Czechia, I think Hungary might be out. But I guess let's start with your boys and get it out of the way. You can just rant for
the first
minutes.
nation to officially be eliminated from the tournament. Yeah, thank you. We'll take this crown. Thank you very much. I'm going home, and we get a nice little cherry on top, being the first. So screw everyone else.
Catch the early flight out.
Mic drop. Yeah, it was. It's hard to say that I was disappointed because you knew my expectations going in. I pretty much said that there was no chance of them leaving the group. And then they played the first half against the Netherlands. And I'm like, ooh, okay, this is different. And then, yep, every single time. And then the full-time whistle blew against Austria, and I was like, why do I ever do this to myself? There's no reason to ever believe anything else.
That's pretty much similar to Turkey, I guess. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I think Turkey's scenario was that was a huge game that they had to win in the first game. So they won that one. This was already a throwaway game because you didn't go into the group saying like we got to beat Portugal or whatever. But I guess when you come out with a lineup that says, "Hey guys, you don't have to win this," you know it's just gonna go south because the players can see who's playing and they're like, "Wait, so we're kind of throwing this away then?" Got it. Do the best we can. Is that what we're doing? And then obviously it's not gonna go well. Yeah, I thought that was like really. Poland and Scotland to grab the first class seats on the first place.
Poland's not even getting a plane. I mean, they're right next door to Germany. They're just going to make them go on the train home. Really, I mean, they don't deserve a plane ride home. They're just going to forget it.
Oh man, that was like, and I saw that and I was like, yikes. And I don't know, like the whole. I think that the whole, I don't know. You obviously watch Poland a lot more. But Lewandowski thing, was that like overblown? Obviously, it's a huge difference if he's out there, and I'm assuming he couldn't give you more than like 30 minutes or whatever. I mean, obviously, hindsight kind of a deal, but would it be a whole different story if he's out there, or does he almost some ways kind of alter how everybody else plays? Because you're looking for Lewandowski at all times.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about. I think whether it was last week or 2 weeks before, is that the team plays better as a whole, as a team, when he's out, because he doesn't try to take up so much of the focus of the ball. When he's out there, it feels like, especially for the younger guys, like this has been the star of our team for the last 10, 12 years. We have to give him the ball. Like we haven't earned the right to be able to take these chances ourselves. Got to give it to him, kind of thing. And so I think, if anything, it was like a nice just gesture to put him out there, because this is going to be his last major tournament. I don't know if he's going to play against France. I don't know if it's worth it for him to play against France, especially given the injury that he was coming off of. And I don't know if he wants to possibly aggravate that, knowing that there's nothing to play for. And then
like before vacation.
Yeah, right. And then you go back to your club, and Barca's like, well, why the fuck did you play the last game? What's going on? Like, what was the point? So yeah, it's unfortunate. I do think there's some interesting pieces coming up, but I don't think that this nation will compete at a high level for another 8 years at least. I just don't see enough right now, unless there's a bunch of 13, 14-year-olds that I don't know of right now that are kind of climbing the ranks.
The Polish Messi, isn't he?
Yeah, not even on the squad.
Get Pulisic over there to save the day. I don't know. I think that's one thing that I like watching Turkey, I guess. There's so much drama on this team that, a lot of people actually don't want them to succeed back home and stuff like that. So there's that kind of like a lot of drama that way. But they're very, very young, man. And they're like, I did not realize like Kenan Yıldız was this good and he was this highly rated. He's like out of all the teenagers in Europe, he's ranked 8 or something like that. And Arda is like 5. So I know Arda was up there, but so they got all these teenagers, even guys like Orkun and stuff like that. They're all like early 20s and stuff like that. So it's promising for the World Cup and the next tournament coming up that this could be like a really, really good team. But having said that, by the way, I hope to God, I know we had some rumors of Orkun Kökçü to Liverpool at one point. That guy has the defensive work rates of I don't know who, Ronaldo. I mean, like literally zero for a midfielder to not track back any give and goes and stuff. Maybe that's why Slot got rid of him at Feyenoord anyway. They were like, oh, he's his boy. He's going to come back. I know he's got into trouble in Benfica, but then there were rumors because he's not happy over there that he would come to Liverpool with Slot and stuff like that. For God's sakes, please no, after having seen him play 2 games back to back, I have seen enough. Anything, this is the only part that sucks. We are getting into the nitty-gritty of things, but that means there are less games. So anything that's shocking you so far that you did not expect to see out of this tournament?
Can you throw up the standings? I'm trying to play everything in my head from what we've seen.
I mean, we can go group by group. I think that was. I mean, I was shocked actually that Switzerland almost pulled it off and won that thing.
Yeah, that was. I mean, what 92nd minute Fulkrug
Yeah.
header to give Germany the. I mean, because they would have had to go against Spain potentially, and Spain looks good. Spain looks really good.
Yes.
So I think that was a huge goal to be able to not have that fixture in the way right away. Not that Italy is going to be an easy fixture by any means, but it's going to be a little bit easier than Spain, because Spain just. I had said this last week, for how young they are and how new all of these pieces are, they still look like they've been playing with each other for
Yes.
so long. It's incredible. They look good, and we might be back into that golden generation of Spain where they had the Euro, the World Cup, the Euro. That I think it was like that 6 years of just complete dominance. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing something like that again.
I mean, yeah, it's amazing how they have rebuilt. Gordo is saying the same, like, just injected a bunch of good young guys. Someone was asking earlier that our interest in Nico Williams is confirmed. I don't know if it's like who it's confirmed by or RB just monitoring him or whatever, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Somebody has to go. And that's another thing. Like some of these guys, I don't know, it's fine. Kind of when you watch him, I mean, especially that last game, you were like, holy cow. But at the same time, I just don't know because every team plays a different style. So what looks good there? I mean, if he doesn't have the best first touch and stuff, I have not seen enough of him to be like, yes, go get that guy. From that game, though, after that game, I knew it too. The moment I hit social media, it was going to be. I was going to joke on our Discord and say hashtag announce Nico or something like that. But then before I even got there, I go to the Facebook groups and people are already signing him. So Italy, even actually, I don't even know if that's guaranteed, to be honest with you. That might not even happen as them going as the second team out of that group.
As them being second at the end?
Yeah, because they are playing today, right? Isn't their game today? Yes. And they're playing Croatia, who Ryan says is a huge disappointment. Yes, they are very old. But it is still Croatia. It's very possible that they could win that and actually have a decent chance of going through if they beat him soundly, I guess. Because they automatically go above Italy because that's the first head-to-head.
Because it goes head-to-head, correct. Yeah. And then, unless Albania beats, I don't see Albania beating Spain as much as, because Spain still, well, I guess they have the head-to-head against Italy. I don't know. I don't like that change was made where it's just automatically head-to-head. I would still want it to be the goal differential, to have Spain still play for something, because now there's no way for them not being first in the group. Before, you could still have a chance of Italy advancing as first in the group if they went ahead on goal differential. But now that's kind of just, it's a moot point. So Spain technically doesn't really have much to play for besides just maybe some more chemistry, if you will.
I'm torn on that. I know what you mean, because honestly, I didn't know that until they kept saying Poland is out if this game goes like that. I'm like, why is that? And then I realized why it was. I know what you mean, because I think it kind of like takes away from the goal differential kind of a thing. See, Ryan just found out, for example. The first tiebreaker is their head-to-head. So if they both have 3 points, if one team beat the other one, they go through. And I kind of do like that in some ways, because just because they beat up on the other guy 5-0 in the first game, they shouldn't go through where we beat them, for God's sakes. Like, you should be able to say, yeah, but we beat them, so we're obviously better than them. We should be the ones.
Yeah.
So I do like that aspect of it.
But if you beat them on a 97th minute sloppy goal and they won their other group games 5-0 and 4-0, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I can see both sides.
Yeah.
I think there's merit both ways. I do think that the goal differential just gives all of the games a bit more of something to play for. Because if we're in the situation now, Spain doesn't, whatever happens with Spain, they know they're first. They know they get to play against Switzerland. That's it. Like, that's just, or I think, well, maybe not. Because there are the third place teams, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe if Spain wins and they're on 9 points with the highest goal differential, then they'll get the weakest third seed. Is that how it would work? That
I
I'm not
don't
sure
know
of.
how the third place team.
Yeah.
From what I heard, yes, because they were saying, there's a very good chance that Turkey is literally gonna back into the next round over here. So and that is your reward. Then you're like, congratulations, you made it to the next round. Here, meet Spain. So I think that's the case. I don't know how they're doing it because they were talking about it yesterday in terms of like potential opponents for Germany and Switzerland. And I was like, how do you guys know this? I don't know if it was like a lot of speculation, if they win this, if they win that, kind of like a deal.
Probably has to be.
So that's going to be, but Croatia still is in it. With a win, they would still go through, which is why I think maybe the head-to-head is over there, because it kind of like definitely helps the cause. They automatically go through. But I guess they would already have 4 points.
Because they have 4 over 3,
Yeah.
so they would go through regardless. Yeah.
So Ryan is right. It doesn't matter. Okay, next group. This is a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be, right?
Interesting in terms of who can still go out. Not interesting is in terms of watching these fucking teams play. Germany has scored more goals than all of these teams combined in this group.
I did not notice that. Yeah, this is a pretty pathetic group. But like, there are some really potential good games here. With like Denmark is playing Serbia, right? Last game, like that could be I know it's on paper it's not an attractive game, but both teams have to win, and those games have been a lot more fun. Like we saw the Hungary-Scotland game yesterday, where both teams have to win. Like, I think that's why Turkey-Georgia was such a good game, because they both knew this was their chance at 3 points. So it was two teams going for it to get those 3 points. So Denmark and Serbia both will need it, and whoever wins will go to the next round because they will have the points needed.
Right. Except potentially Serbia, because they lost to England.
The only thing is, and this is how I'm hoping Turkey's back into the action. The first group, the cap is already 3 points, and they have a brutal. Hungary does not have a good goal differential. They're -3.
Right.
So, like, for example, if Serbia wins, they have the 4 points, and they're pretty much guaranteed as to go as a third, because that already is the group. And then Group B, if the favorites in Spain and Italy win, or even if they get draws, that group is totally gone, because the third spot will have 1 or 2 points. So it's going to be yes, this is an interesting question. My brother actually was asking me, because that was the second game he officiated. Why do they have an Argentinian guy? My brother thought it was a mistake, but I was like, nope, they keep saying it. He must be from Argentina. I don't know why they felt the need to import a guy. Here's the weird thing. They imported a guy, right, for this game. The guy is like Argentinian. But then in the game where Turkey played Portugal and Martinez is Spanish, the fourth referee was Spanish. I was like, you guys have all these countries. This is the best arrangement you guys could do, is get a Spanish guy to ref a Turkey game where the other opposing manager is Spanish man. I mean, it didn't impact the game. I thought it was just odd. But yeah, why is there an Argentinian guy there? Are we running out of refs?
Well, we very well might be. We see what the quality is like in England.
Taylor is out there doing his thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't have really much to pick from at this point, probably.
Group D. Well, you probably don't want to talk too much about this, but
I genuinely don't care. It's fine. We can talk about all we want. I am not bothered by it, because it's exactly what I had expected. I mean, maybe I thought they'd finish third at least, but I did not expect anything else. This was a tough
group. I mean, they did have a tough draw, but yeah, I thought they would be going as one of the thirds to the next round, to be honest with you. Austria looked really, really good, by the way.
I mean,
I don't know if that was Poland or that was Austria, to be honest.
And there's a chance still that, depending on how the rest of the groups shake out, that you could have, because there's 2 third place teams moving on, correct?
4 third place teams.
Oh, there's 4? Oh, never mind.
4 out of the 6 go on. It's
okay.
like the NHL hockey playoffs. Almost everybody makes it to the next round.
Yeah, never mind. I was misguided in my memory, so never mind. I was thinking of a world where the Netherlands end up getting knocked out just randomly not being able to qualify.
Randomly.
Have Austria, Austria beat Netherlands, France beats Poland, Netherlands on 4 points with a negative goal differential, and then you have some other 4-pointers that sneak right above it.
What is the last games on that one? Oh, you guys are playing France and okay. See, that's another good game to watch, but then they could both play probably for the tie, the Netherlands Austria game. Yeah, this group is not going to be a lot of fun games because the
Austria
draw
could finish
helps
top of the
both.
group.
Yeah,
Wow.
no shit. You don't think France is going to beat Poland?
They are going to be, but I'm just saying it. I'm saying mathematically it's possible.
Group E, where literally anything is possible.
This is the group to watch right now. This has been just wild, and whenever you see the X's and the check marks do that kind of thing within a group, then you know that the group has just been insane. So I'm excited to see how that one's going to end.
Yeah, because they're going to be watching the other game, what's going on there. But in a lot of ways, while it does sound promising, the catch is going to be everybody will be okay with draws except Ukraine.
Correct. Yeah, because if both games draw and they all end on 4 points, fourth place 4 point is not making the next cut at all. So, and that would be heart wrenching for whoever that's going to be. Well, it would be Ukraine because they're on the most goal differential.
And our group, Portugal is in the driver's seat. They're pretty much they're guaranteed actually at this point because even if they were second, the worst they can be is second. So Turkey plays Czechia. Unless they lose by like 3 goals or something like that, they could possibly back into it. The worst thing that can happen to Turkey is go out that game for a draw, because if you go out there for a draw, you're not getting a draw, as we saw in the Portugal game. They got to go out, but I think they will go out a bit differently. The only issue is we have no center backs left because one is suspended now, the other one left holding his hip and stuff like that. So that could get ugly against a Czechia team that's really good in the air. But I don't know. I just like watching the young talents more than anything else in this team so far. So has your favorite changed? Are you riding with Spain based on what we've seen so far?
So far, I think I had a pretty good guess before the tournament in picking Spain. And for right now, I do feel good about that. I think Germany will be interesting, but I don't know if I have as much faith. Portugal, maybe interestingly, I don't know if you can consider them a dark horse, but I feel like they have enough. That's just bitterness coming from me, I think.
They're such a douchey team.
I know. I'm not saying I want them to win.
Oh my god, dude! How does this happen? Like, is that part of the passport? I don't want to offend anybody Portuguese, but what is up with this team?
Everyone
do they sign a contract? We're gonna bitch every call. Got it signed right here, and then you're gonna argue. Doesn't matter if you got the call or not. Still argue about it and stuff. And how that team does not get yellow cards left and right is beyond me, because it's not just the captain whining. It's everybody whining because Ronaldo is captain, correct? I assume. So how did Fernandes not get a yellow card that entire game is beyond me, because he argued every single call like he does at United.
They are the most unlikable team, which that doesn't mean I want them to win, but they have a shot. I think they have enough quality throughout the team to at least be considered. I think they'll make it to the semifinals. I think that's where their cap is.
I say they might possibly make it one more round based on the matchup, then they're out. Fair. I don't think they're seeing the semis. I don't even know. Yeah, what was happening there, by the way? Could the security be any worse at these Euros?
Probably. I mean, unfortunately, it could be worse.
No security.
It's been pretty bad.
Oh God, the Portugal thing is just unreal, and it's not because they play Turkey. Like, I felt the same way when I watched their first game too. It's just an unbearable team, and let's face it, if Jota wasn't playing for us, we would find some of his antics probably unbearable too. You already get like a little bit of bias as a little.
I already do. What are you talking about?
Yes, you do. Yeah,
you know me. I'm the biggest Jota complainer in our entire Discord. The man. His ability to poach goals supersedes everything else that he doesn't do. He can't link up well. He fucking falls on the pitch all the time, complains all the time. It's I don't know.
That's right. I did forget
Portuguese
that
part
you
of
do.
it.
Yes, your glasses are not as tinted as definitely like mine or rest of us. I think you kind of like, that's why I was kind of glad that he didn't come into the game, because I was like, okay, I can just hate him full force over here and not worry about him coming in. But yeah, I mean, this is where it's gonna get interesting. The only downfall is it's gonna be less games. My entire day of like just watching that is gone down the drain, at least for the next like 3-4 days over here. But any parting thoughts? Probably a good point to wrap it up. I thought we had one more thing, but maybe I'm forgetting it. Maybe not. I mean, Slot talked. I mean, I didn't ask you. We had a chance to talk about it. Are you not entertained? Are you entertained? Where are you at? Where are you at? By the way, we're gonna release like a shorter version of it as well. But if you have not already, do head over to Patreon and subscribe and give a watch to my interview. I'm probably the worst interviewer, but Kim was great. So there's also that from the sports club in Netherlands. A lot of like good information and background of how he's seen by opposing, and she's from a rival team fan of Feyenoord. So it was very interesting. So head on over there. There's a couple of clips and shorts out on our YouTube channel already, but you can get the full episode even as a free subscriber on the other side. But yes, go ahead. Now that I did that plug.
No, you're fine. It's always worth the plug. I just find it so amusing how everyone was waiting to hear him speak, and then as soon as we hear him, then everyone starts complaining about what they heard, and it's just like it wasn't enough. And I don't know what some people were expecting to hear. The guy was going to come in, he was going to talk about how excited he was to have this opportunity. And that was going to be the crux of it. There wasn't going to be much else. We're going to dive into the tactics. We're going to dive into who he's looking at, who he wants to play on the team, where he wants the players on this team to play. There wasn't going to be much of that. If anything, I really felt as if he had a genuine happiness to be there. Some interviews you see people, and yeah, they might be smiling, but it doesn't come across as they're really happy to be there. They're there because they have to be. They're just doing it as part of their job, because if they didn't, they would get fined or whatever the case might be. It looked like he was so excited to do the interview, to have all of that, to be part of that, to talk about the club, to talk about the connections between the club and Feyenoord, and kind of relate to the people, which I think was the big thing that he did well, was just making sure that he went back to the roots of the club and of the people, and connecting Feyenoord and Liverpool as a city, as a dock city, right? And the working class people. And I think if you were expecting anything else from that, then it's sort of your own fault for being disappointed.
I think that was one thing that I really liked. Not only, getting the city, I really admired more about the constant respect he kept showing to Feyenoord. And I think that says a lot more about a person where you don't they're behind now, I don't have to compliment him or anything like that. He was constantly going out of his way to kind of like compliment that club, compare them and stuff like that. And I honestly felt bad for him. The more shorts and videos and stuff I see on the Liverpool social media accounts, I was like, man, this is gonna suck. I know it's part of the job and they get paid very handsomely for it, but I mean, it sucks. He's walking to the weight room, training room, and then he has to look like, has to look interested and happy at all.
We don't have these. We didn't have these at Feyenoord. What is this? What is this?
They got his 10 pounds in the Netherlands. It was just kind of like odd to watch him do all that stuff. I kind of felt bad for him. But yeah, if you wanted to hear from him, I don't know. Some people were content with what they heard. Yes, everybody was very happy with his English, as Ryan says. Not that Klopp's English was bad. I actually find it kind of like humorous, where he was trying to learn words on the fly over there. The whole brain fog thing by itself is like great comedy. So I thought that actually generated more comedy that way than somebody knowing. He kept saying ducks instead of docks. So that was kind of good. But I'm the last guy to make fun of an accent, having my little weird Cosmo Turk. Nobody says I have a Turkish accent, by the way, but I do have some kind of like a crazy
Yeah, yours is difficult to ascribe to one single place. I feel like you kind of have a culmination of a bunch of different places mixed into one, which makes you really the international man of mystery.
I am the international man of mystery. Maybe that's why. Actually, I was going to ask over here while we have a lot of people in the audience as well. I'm actually gonna do. If you haven't seen enough of me over here or heard from me, obviously which we have to finish our co-op season. By the way, we're about to win the title.
I know.
So
I don't know what
this month on Patreon, actually in July on Patreon, you'll be able to see that. A Bond villain. Actually, that's not a bad name either. So anyway, starting kind of. A YouTube channel where I do some of the gaming, bring different people on, talk about how Pulisic is like the best player and all that kind of stuff. So looking for a name for the channel. I've asked on Discord as well, but if you have not chimed on Discord, if you're not on our Discord, throw a couple of names out there. I have a couple of good suggestions made already, but I gotta come up with one. I don't know if I like Bond villain as an international madam, because most of them do sound like they're OnlyFans accounts, and I don't not to look that not to mention I don't want to really set up people for disappointment.
The everyone needs to join the Discord for this alone. I mean, this is one of the, and this is coming from me who really appreciates, like, I'm the one that typically photoshops some really shitty thing onto something else, and for the laughs. This was fantastic. This was just chef's kiss.
Even the angle was made good, and I was like, God, if you're so talented, why aren't you in the goddamn graphics department helping us out instead of wasting time putting my photo on Megan over there? But yeah, Turkish Prince. Usually I go with like the Turkish Stallions, and that's a name that that's like the old stallion thing over there, like way back in the day. One of my very first supervisors, Darren Fetter, who lives in Costa Rica now, by the way.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, Darren. I'm sure he's watching. He hated soccer with a passion, so I doubt it. But like he called me because obviously, my Turkishness was a lot more apparent back then, apparently. So he called me Turkish style, and I don't know why it stuck. And then I started using as here and there. And then like my Xbox ID, my PlayStation ID, even on Steam and stuff like that. So the Turkish Stallion would make sense in terms of my gaming content because all the names would be. I know about Timuçin D Stallion because that could be a lawsuit waiting to happen as well. Windy City Whiffs. A couple of hours from the Windy City, apparently.
That could go several ways there.
Yeah, that
could. Also really, really quickly. I don't know if this was mentioned at all in maybe not in the other show because I don't think it came out yet. I don't want to spend much time on it, but Michael Olise to Bayern, that's the weirdest transfer of this. I mean, there hasn't been much this summer, but that could be the weirdest one of the summer. I am shocked, beyond shocked. He did not stay in England.
You are shocked that, okay, like in terms of his choice or in terms of Bayern's choice?
Maybe both, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually more shocked than Olise saying, I'll go there. Like, go to Germany.
Yeah, I think if I'm putting a split on it, it's like 70 Olise, 30 Bayern. That's kind of where, but it's so weird. If anything, for Palace, I guess, they're going to get the money and they don't have to see him succeed at a club that they're going to play against.
Yes.
Maybe that's the only solace they can take from that, because other than that, like, I expected him to be maybe at Chelsea, possibly United. Like, it would have been nice to keep him in the league.
Yeah, he's a good
talent.
Nice to company. I mean, I know Kane is there. I just didn't understand like what his decision making was, unless he felt like a lot more comfortable. He knows Bayern will play him. I don't know. Like, I don't know why he chose that. I can see why he didn't want to go to Chelsea. I'll be honest.
That I can yes.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of like, I don't know what I'm getting into here. Money is great and everything, so I kind of understand. But then he did have a lot of other options, and he would have had a lot more options. I guess I'm a bit more shocked as well. Let me throw another slice in that pie of like 10-15% that it's got done now, and he didn't kind of like sit and wait to see what else is going to be out there for him. And just, I don't know if it's signed and sealed, but it's pretty much a done deal. So I was shocked that it happened so soon, and he didn't kind of wanted to see how the markets would keep going.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe because of that release clause, because that's what they're paying. So there's not really an amount specifically. There's a specific amount that they just had to cover, and it wasn't really going to be a bitter situation. So maybe that was Bayern was like, you know what, he said he was sort of interested. If we want this kid, we're willing to pay X amount, whatever it is, and just to get it done. So I mean, I see it as good business from the Bayern side of things, just to get it all done and taken care of. But yeah, because I don't know if him waiting is going to benefit him at all. If anything, it might benefit Palace because they could get maybe more money than what the release clause is.
Yeah.
But does he owe them that wait? I don't know. It's hard to say, right?
And Palace did try to keep him as well, and I think they kind of like wanted to do a new contract and probably just bump up the price so that the signing fee is a bit more and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a huge hit for them, and that was going to be one thing for Palace. They were looking really good last season, especially towards the end there. I don't know, they're gonna lose too many pieces to come back from that. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I'm glad you brought that up because that's probably the only, apart from like the whole Douglas Luiz, Villa, Juventus ordeal, that's pretty much like I know Chelsea is going around like local high schools in South America and like signing a bunch of kids over there, like 17, 18-year-old kids to be probably loaned forever, and we might never hear from them again. But aside from that, really not a lot happening. Now that some teams are taking the early flights out, I don't know if we'll get more news coming out, especially once this round is done. But I'm just happy watching the tournaments instantly. As long as you can turn off the studio sound, and then you're in good shape. But eye out for Pulisic and Bellingham, the next Maradonas. Bellingham, I can kind of see. And even that, I would be like, that's way too freaking early to compare Bellingham. I'm sure Bellingham himself right now would feel it's way too early to compare him to Messi and Maradona and stuff like that. Because the key is when you mention those players and when you say for a player to be generational, they would have to play a generation, not like 2 years.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I can see Bellingham in 10 years. He can probably, so I can see that in terms of like coming up. But Pulisic is freaking like 26 or something now. That's train has.
I thought he was even older than that. I'm going to look that up really quick because I thought he was older than 26.
We just looked yesterday.
Oh, 25. Wow.
25. That's why.
I guess I've just been hearing his name for so long that I thought he was a bit older.
Yes. I think that, we kind of like the other dudes. Adu, what was his name? Edu, what was his name?
Freddie Adu.
I mean, that, we heard him like after he was born. So it feels like he's probably still like 25. He even played in Turkey for a while, actually. Bellingham is potentially Lothar Matthäus levels. Have to see him go.
Freddie Adu's 35, so not that far off.
And he's a good player.
We're not saying he's not a good player. That's
Would
not
you say good or great? Because Ryan is saying great.
I guess it depends on where he's playing. I think in Italy he's been a great player. In England he was a fine player. For the international team, he's a decent player. Like, I don't know. It depends on
just the fact that you're looking for words tells me, like, that's why I don't think he's great. Does that make sense? Like, I can't just come out and say he's a great player. He's a real good player, but I don't know if I could say he is great. I mean, I might be biased because I rooted against signing him for the last like 5-6 years anytime his name was mentioned, because for you to be great, you had to be really good for an extended period of time. And whether that's fair or not on him with his injuries and stuff, he has never been really, really good for an extended period of time.
Yeah, except for last year.
But that's that's like a season. You know what I mean?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Like 2-3 years of being really good make you great. But otherwise, he's real good. Let's see if he's great, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and I mean, and our definitions of what those words even mean can be a little different, right? So it's just, again, we go back to the conversation about the value that we see. We could possibly be on the same page. We're just using slightly different words.
I mean, I think we can all agree that he is the next Maradona. at the end of the day, right? I mean, nobody's arguing that. No, anyone? No, nothing. Okay. On that note, you can head over. I'm sure we don't want to keep the staff waiting back there with the umbrellas.
Oh, they will wait as long as I need them to. God damn it.
Yeah, we won't hold back I'm sure the brunch is ready, almost being served over there. But yes, happy anniversary to you and everybody else out there who is having an anniversary. We will be back. I'll be back Wednesday morning. Last one before I head over to vacation over here, and John and Gordo will be on that one. But I will be back tonight as well, obviously, with the regular Monday gang. I'll be making my appearance back, and they had a lot of fun while I was gone, so I'm gonna have to put an end to that. But we'll see you guys then. Have an awesome week, everybody. Take care.